Good morning, everyone. How are you? I've got my coffee. I hope you do too. It's early here, so we're just really excited to be here, and so much to talk about. And we'll leave room for questions at the end. This is geared, so that you know, specifically towards producers who work in Final Cut in the field. And the reason I wanted to do it is because a lot of them are turning down work, not a lot, but once in a while they turn down work because the network or the studio says, well, we need Avid. And if you're working in Final Cut as a story editor, field producer, we can't hire you. And that's not the case. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to help everybody get more gigs, how to make you comfortable using your favorite NLE, which for most of us here is Final Cut. It is for me. And that's what I use when I'm in the field, and that's what I use every day in the studio. So let's go ahead and we will start. I'm going to share my screen. And Shayna, thank you for all the help you're giving us. I really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to give me a second here. Of course, now that you guys are here, it's taking me a minute to share the screen, but we're going to share and have fun, ask a lot of questions. I hope this helps you. The whole goal of this is to help everyone get more jobs. And we have Jeff Greenberg is going to join us. He's been a big part of this, particularly at the end where we're talking with other editors. So this is Final Cut Field Producers, a how-to guide for delivery to editors who are working on Avid, Premiere, and Resolve. We've got a lot to cover today. You work in the field. This is not for advanced editors. This is for predators and for editors who are curious about how to keep their predators happy, okay? So your network has told you they want clips delivered to somebody who's working in a different NLE. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to story edit using Lumberjack Builder, which I use that to build my stories. And then we're going to export from Final Cut to any other NLE. And a lot of people go, no, that's not possible. It's too much trouble. It doesn't work. That's not true. So the end result we're looking for today is how to keep your EP happy, collect that big check. And we've got some bonus content from Jeff Greenberg, Kristen Frascione, and Brad Olson. So I'm supposed to introduce myself. This is me in my natural environment, always with the camera, most of the time way out in the field. I've been working for a long time. I'm a member of many of the guilds and many associations. And a lot of the work that I've been doing the last 10 years has literally been in the field in very remote locations. So I've been in situations where I have had to provide a story edit to the network, particularly like National Geographic wanted, they wanted videos from the field. They wanted our video diaries. They wanted me to come up with a log of what had happened during the day and accompany that with some footage. So it was during my time at National Geographic that I really started using Final Cut quite a bit. And we'll get into that a little bit more. So why is this topic important? I really feel like it's important because this is the old way of doing things. Remember when we were writing paper scripts and the network would hire us to do a show, and we would go in and we'd go to the studio and then we'd check out tapes from the library. And then we would sit at Media Composer and we would pick out the clips and we'd make a list of clips from our script that we had written and give it to the editor. Or actually the script would be written after you had watched all of the footage. So this is a very old fashioned way of doing it. And I've done dozens and dozens of these over the years. But I mean, I think here's what I really want to tell you guys, okay? This predator in the field is your first line of defense against a bad story, okay? Take advantage of your predator, work with them, and communicate from the studio to the predator and backwards and forwards. Your field producer is the one who really will help you figure out what the best story is because they're there and they see everything that's going on. So hopefully these tools that we're going to have today are going to help that. I just want to show you guys what we're going to be working with. And this is a situation where we're imagining that the studio has called us and they've said, okay, we need a promo because we want to raise some more money for this movie, or they have a special event coming on. And by the way, today is Veterans Day. And I want to say thank you to all of our veterans and their families out there. And a very special thank you to my father, who is one of the two men in this movie, The Purple Heart, that we're going to be talking about, and Keontae's story, who you see here on your screen. They were both wounded warriors. One of them went through World War II, first wave on Omaha Beach, and then went from there and survived the Battle of Chosin, and then went from there to Vietnam. And Keontae did a tour in Iraq and a tour in Afghanistan. So I'm just going to show you one of the stories that would be put together in the field using clips.
I believe that this documentary has the ability to change a life and change people's views or even perspectives on how they view their life. More of a reassurance sometimes for people to know that they're not alone in life and that, what they're going through, they're not the only person.
He called me and told me, and I lost my foot or the leg or something. It's like, So I held on till he hung up, and that's when you cry.
I like to thank everyone who donated their time, energy, money into making this documentary to what it is today. If it wasn't for you guys who, believed in what we are making, then this would not be what it wouldn't be. In short, it wouldn't exist.
Okay, now you're probably wondering, how on earth can you do that in the field and get that done by another editor working in another NLE? So let's just go over briefly what we're going to cover today. We start with the raw interview. We bring all the media into Final Cut and we edit together what we think they're going to want on the other end. Now, remember, you're not sending all the media. You're just going to be at this point working with the media that you as a field producer believe the studio is going to need in order to cut their promo or cut their video diary, or just sometimes the executives just want to see what the film is going to look like and make sure that everything's going okay in the field. So from there, from Final Cut, we export to Builder, where we actually do editing using transcript, text to transcript. And I'll show you how we do that. And we build our story, which we take back to Final Cut. And once it's in Final Cut, then we export that XML. And I'm going to show you, and Jeff, you're going to join us. Hopefully he's also going to help show you how we convert to Premiere, to Avid, and to Resolve, and back and forth. Okay, so this is going to be, I'm so excited about this because I can't tell you how many times I've been told, no, this can't happen. If you're working in Final Cut, we need to hire somebody else. And I don't want that to happen to you guys, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at building an interview sequence with one person in it, which is very, very simple. If you want to kind of take a look at what we're doing, you can go to lumberjacksystem.com after this and you can bring Builder in. They'll give you a free month to try it and you can build your own story and play around with it before you get in the field. Okay. So this is building a sequence with one person. All right. You can take a look here and you can see where I have brought media in that I think ultimately we might want to use for this particular cut. I've got Keontae's interview in here and we've sort of built everything in Final Cut. It's ready to go. Did a little bit of audio enhancements, which do translate over, surprisingly. They do translate over. So once you're done with that, you're never quite finished and ready right away. So there's always going to be more. You'll notice I bring some more B-roll in here. But when I export the XML from Final Cut, we're not going to go too much into using Final Cut because I'm assuming that most of you, if you're a field producer using Final Cut, you really understand the program. If you have any questions afterwards, you can always email me. I'll give you my email at the end and I can actually help walk you through some of the initial steps. Anything to get you guys going and working and collecting that paycheck, okay? So you can see the first one that I did. It's a little bit different. I didn't have all the B-roll in it that I wanted. I thought about it. I went, okay, let me think about what else I might need to send to the studio. And so then I did my revision, and you can see that it's the same interview timeline, but there's additional B-roll in here that wasn't in here before that I may want to send to them. Okay, so now we've gone into Final Cut. We've exported the XML, and we've got that XML, and we're going to go into Builder, and we're going to open up that XML. So you go to Lumberjack System, you open Builder, and this is what comes up when you open Builder. You're going to see immediately save the Builder project with a name. Just in case anything happens on your computer. I've never had it crash, but you just never know. So once you're in there, you're going to see all of the clips that are in the project. You can pick one to add to the transcription batch, and then you have it transcribed, which is wonderful. It works about, for a 1 hour interview, it'll take maybe 15 minutes to do the translation. So that's pretty awesome. So then when you're ready, you can upload it. And because I'm doing this, I'm getting free transcriptions. Isn't that great? Anyway, you can submit your batch at that point and wait for it to finish. And when you're ready, the one thing I do like about Builder too is it doesn't do just in the background, right? You're not stuck there wondering whether or not things are working. Sometimes there are programs that work in the background. You don't know if they're finished or not. We've all been through that. I love that about Builder because I know that it's still translating. Now, you can pick any language here that you want. I'm obviously using English, but if you're working with, you want a translation in French or German, it will do that for you. And I love that aspect of it too. We've had several people email from all over the world asking us if you can do translation or transcriptions in foreign languages. And yes, you can. So once you have it in, the transcript comes in, and this is what you're going to see on the right. This is the transcript that's come in. And I kind of look at it and I'll go through and I'll make a few edits to fix any typos that I think are really a little confusing. Doesn't happen too often, but there are things that do need to be fixed. So you can fix your transcription at that point. And then you move to the next screen, you click this right-hand button right here, and you move to the next screen, and that's going to bring in the story mode. So all of that transcription, let me go back one, two, and just tell you one more thing. We can add people and we can add keywords. So since this is all just Chianti, I highlighted the whole thing and I added his name. And then I added the fact that this is an interview, just so that down the road, and we'll show you a little bit more about how that works, but down the road, I know where all his interview clips are and they're easy to find. Okay. So we've done that. And now we're going to move everything on this right-hand column over to the story page by clicking this right arrow up on the top. And this is what comes up. And you can see that these are all the clips, all the sound bites from Chianti that are in that particular interview that I wanted to edit. And then from there, this is the really fun stuff. This is the new way of writing a script. You can actually drag and drop pieces of anything on the left, any of the transcript onto the right, and start building your story cut. And it will also play it for you. Now, the reason I'm not doing this live is some people have told me that it's easier for them just to see a still image so that they can focus on it, because sometimes we tend to click too fast. So if you want, at the end, I can bring in Builder live. If anybody has questions about how this works or want to see it live, it's very, very fast. I have Builder up in the background here and we can do it live. But for now, I'm just showing you some screen grabs. So here we are, and I'm starting to build a story. Now, remember, I've gotten a call. The studio wants a promo. So I'm going to want very short sound bites from that long interview. And I've started to drag them in here, and I read that and I go, no, not quite. That's not quite what I want. So you'll take a look at that. You'll go, not quite. So here's another pass at it. And this is actually what I ended up using in the little clip that you saw in the beginning. You can also break these paragraphs apart. You can pick a section and click in it and eliminate words. And in this case, I didn't do too much of that because I wanted the editor on the other end to have the full soundbite so that they could do some editing on their end and match it up with the B-roll they're going to put in on their end. So you don't want to do too tight of an edit in this particular situation. Now, if I was doing it for the film itself, obviously I would want a very, just a very, very tight edit. But at this point, this is going to give the editor on the other end a lot of leeway, and they'll be very, very happy with you. So once you have your story put together here, so this is what I want to export into a timeline, into Final Cut. You open you just go export right down here. There's a little button you can export to Final Cut, and you click that and a dialog box will open up, and then you can click where you want it to go and choose that particular library. And it's great because this is what happens. It'll ask you, and I always keep both. It'll ask you, it says Builder's going to send an XML document back to Final Cut. What do you want to do? And I say, keep both. Okay. So now we're back in Final Cut. And here we've got the Builder story in here with the sequence. So now what you can do is once you have your cut sequence, I'm going to show you on the next slide what it looks like. You can add, this is a cheat, and I've had people tell me you can't do this, but you really can. You can export from Final Cut a new media clip that has handles in it using what you've created in Builder. And that's really handy if you're really in a hurry and you're in the middle of nowhere and you want to get a story out right away. So that's what it would look like. So I brought in the Builder project, and I added handles just to make it easy for the editor so they would know where all the cuts were without having to search. Sometimes, especially nowadays, it's easy. It's not always easy to see where the cuts are. So I've added handles. The other thing I would do is I would take out, Builder brings in a lower third the first time a person speaks, and I would take this out. Also, at this point, we do have, when it comes back, it also has your transcript, your visual transcript in here. And we're working a lot with the def. So sometimes we want to embed this into the footage and sometimes not, but that will go along with the sidecar files to the editor. So that's it. Now what you do is you go into Final Cut, you say share, you create your master file. Now I usually do an H.264 because also remember, while you're doing all this and you're sending this to the editor at the home stretch, you're also going to be getting the master media to them because they're going to need the master media. So you're transferring the whole kit and caboodle to them. But this allows you to transfer just a small file using Frame.io or some kind of transport. We use Hightail a lot because it's very fast. You pick the master file and then they've got it. So now let's look at building an interview sequence for 2 people or more, because a lot of times you're going to want, like I did in this particular piece, intercut between 2 different interviews, right? So this is the sequence, the way it looked in Final Cut once I build it. And I want to add Paula to the Builder document so I can create a script that intercuts between Paula and Chianti. So let's see how we do that. This is actually the timeline for that little piece you saw in the middle. This is Paula, Chianti's mother. And I'm going to show you how to start building your 2-person interview and intercut between 2 different interviews. So I've imported that project into Builder, like I showed you before. And now we see these are all the clips, and I've transcribed Paula Cries, which is a shorter version that I had made of her long interview because I knew I wasn't going to need the whole interview. So I went into Final Cut and I cut a shorter version of it. I exported that, and then I brought it back in as a new media clip. It's just a little cheat that I use when I don't want to deal with a lot of media. So in this instance, I've got stuff that I can ship out right away to the studio, and it's not as bulky. I mean, this stuff is in 4K, so it tends to be large files. So you can see that the transcripts come back, and I've started to see on the right-hand side what I've got. And now, excuse me, now I'm going to go to Story Builder. And this is the story that I dragged through here. One thing that I did do in between, I have to tell you, is I went back and I fixed a typo. They were calling Chianti Jimmy for some reason, and that does happen, but you can see that that's fixed. So I dragged in Paula's sound bites. And now we've got the beginnings of a story using Paula, but we want to bring in Chianti too. So how do you do that? Because I need the whole story, right? So in Builder, you can go in and you can tell them to copy the clips from this document to another open document. These are the Chianti clips that we did. And you tell it to do that. And it added clips to the new document. And here we have Chianti's interview and Paula's interview all lined up in story mode. You can preview each of these clips and listen to them, make sure they sound all right. But this isn't the way I want the story to read, right? This is not the way I want the story to be. So I go in and I start moving the media around. I took Paula's soundbite and I moved it up so that Chianti could finish the piece with his quote. And now I've got my script. You can output an MP4 for the producers to see. You can print it. You can save the script to your computer so that you can see it later. And you can also, this is what I'm going to use right now. I'm going to send it back to Final Cut. So I send it back to Final Cut. And here we are again. I'm going to choose where I want it to go. I've got my new story and keep both again. And this is what it looks like. I wanted you to see what it looks like when it comes back into Final Cut. So this is actually the full screen with your work in the background. So you keep both, and then, and there you have it. That's the new timeline with the new story of the A roll of Chianti and Paula together. Now, again, if I want to do a preview MP4, I will leave the lower third in here so they can see who is talking. But when I send it to the editor, I'll take those out because you don't want to bake that in, right? So there again, now that you're finished and you've got the A roll, you can export that again. And then we're going to use that as an example. You can translate that. Then the Final Cut XML can go to this little application that I found called EDL for Avid. And it actually is very fast. And I'll tell you why I kind of like it. So I noticed somebody said, Gert said, oh, wow, Dutch is supported. Yes, it is. Sorry if I'm not watching. And Shana, tell me if there's anything really important. We'll deal with your questions afterwards, though. Okay, this is kind of exciting. This is a little app that costs $99. It's worth every penny. And I'll explain to you why I love EDLs in a moment. But it will take your Final Cut XML and very quickly actually export it to an EDL for Avid. And this is what it looks like. You can get it in the App Store. Rainer Stanke, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, is the developer. And I've tried it. It is updated for the latest version of Final Cut Pro X. And it does create those edit EDLs. So you can send those to your editor as well. This is what the Final Cut XML looks like. And it's very long. You don't see the whole thing. So then you continue and you tell it, you give it the specs. Now, this is something that if you're going to do this to send to an editor, I would just check with them. I would bring open these windows and share your screen with your editor, and you can go through all of the preferences that are in here. There's quite a few of them. But you know, for this test, I just left it at default and it worked great. So then once everything's in, it'll tell you it's there. You can save it as a tabbed eliminated text. which actually is also important down the road, not necessarily right now, but I know that at National Geographic, we annotated all of the EDLs. The legal department needed us to annotate, the producers to annotate the EDLs so they could put it into the final book that is kept on file with additional information that's necessary. So now this is what the EDL looks like. It's been brought in, and you can save that and you can send it to your Avid editor along with the media. And that does work too. And Jeff, please tell me if there's any problems with this that I don't know about, because you are the expert. And actually, Jeff, do you want to come on with me? All I can see is what I can't see what you guys see. So I don't know if Jeff's handsome face is there or not. Okay, so now we're going to save the EDL into wherever so we remember where we put it, right? And now this is another way of looking at what we're talking about today. Okay, we started with our field producer, then we went out to Builder. We did a story edit, quick story edit in Lumberjack Builder, and took it back to Final Cut, and then figured out how to deliver that media and a new XML to Final Cut Pro Editor. But life isn't perfect, and that's why we're doing this talk today, because, and we'll get into this now, there's different NLEs out there that are going to need the work that you've done in the field. So we're going to show you how to export to Premiere, and we're going to show you how to export for Avid, and using Resolve either as an NLE or a pass-through for Avid. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. That's what I love the most. And you can find cheats. There's a couple in here we're going to talk about, and you can do it your way. So there's many, many different ways of doing it. For me, as a preditor, I'm not the expert editor that someone like Jeff Greenberg or Christian Fraccione, who you'll meet in a moment. But I don't know what I'd do without Final Cut. I really don't. It makes me better at what I do every day. So one note to everybody, just to know, you can write this down. Your destination editor has to have all of the original media that's in your library and all of the exported EDLs or the XML. Okay, so make sure that when you send things back to your editor to import into his NLE, you've sent all the original media, and that way they can be very happy and they can work. So I want to introduce you to Kristen Fraccione. She worked with me editing a lot of the shows that I was doing for National Geographic, and she's amazing. She's back east. I don't know if you're on the preview or not, Kristen, because I know you were working with a client today, but I want to thank you. She put together, and she had actually never had to do this before. So you're going to see somebody doing this for the very first time, and she's going to take the XML that I sent to her along with the media, and she's going to show us how she brings that into Premiere.
Hi. I received these files from Cirina. One is the actual media file, and one is the XML from FCP10. It is currently zipped, so let's unzip that first. Okay, now I have a working file, and I can't open that directly in Premiere Pro because FCP10 and Premiere Pro do not speak the same language. So therefore, I'm going over here to this great tool called X2CC. I'm going to launch that, and if I go into open, I will go to that folder that I just unzipped, tell it to open. I'm going to save it in my current folder. Done. So now I have a finished XML that Premiere Pro can read. So my next step is to open Premiere Pro, and once that comes up, we will need to make a new project. Okay, so select new project. I'm going to call it Chianti interview. Okay. All right, so far I have nothing in here. So the next step I need to do is go under File and Import. Now I'm going to import that XML file that we just created using X2CC. Import that. I just need to tell it where to locate everything, the folders. Let's see, there we go. Okay, and it is that simple. And now we have a clip. And this is, there's Chianti. So you can see I have everything in here that was given to me from the project. So it looks like there's subclips, regular clips, and some sequences as well. So there you have it. Super simple, super easy. Hope you can make great use of this. Thanks.
Thank you, Kristen. I love that. I just love that, how easy that was. And thank you, Final Cut, for making our life easier. All right, so that was a very simple one. I sent her a simple timeline and some very simple media, just because it was the first time she and I together were going to do that, and it worked great. So now I want to bring Jeff, if you're not already on, I want to bring you back in, and I want
I
to.
am. I am
You're
here.
there. Awesome.
I'm here. I'm being quiet. I didn't know if you knew I was here.
That's awesome. Okay, so I hope, there you go. There's Jeff.
Oh, wow.
Jeff?
And that's, boy, do you know how much, like, I am like a solid, like 70 pounds lighter than I am in that picture.
You know, I don't think you look heavy in that picture. I think you look very
I
handsome.
do. I think I look, as usual, very kind, but I can see it. I can see it. Yeah.
So, you know, I picked that picture this morning, and I actually, for everyone listening, Jeff is a dear friend and someone who trains trainers, and someone who is absolutely brilliant. And I called him when I decided to do this, and I said, would you please check what I'm telling people, just to make sure that just because I do it and it works for me, that it's going to work in a universal world. So Jeff very kindly agreed to do that, and he's put together some videos for you guys to see. And
well, before you go
ahead
into the videos, I just want you to know, I get pulled into a lot of situations, whether it's for color, whether it's to take a look at somebody's edit, where I can open up, I'm blessed, I can open up the same exact tool they have, and I can work in that tool, and it feels native to me. But every now and again, I get asked to, like, hey, we've got somebody, they've started in Final Cut, and we've got it now, new funding, and we want to bring in this editor. How do we get from A to B? And the big thing that your talk really mirrors is that it's a one-way switch. It really is. The Final Cut editor can start, and if you're going to hand it off into a different application, you really, 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 above all else, don't want to switch back and forth. And there are a couple finesse areas. I just thought, you know, I wrote some rules up, and you mind if I share the screen here?
absolutely.
Excellent. I just want to show those of you watching, and I'm happy to publish this deck. I just want to go ahead, because this one will be a quick screen share just for this one or two slides, and then we'll walk through a couple of the other ones. I'm just looking for my screen share rules from our friend Zoom. There it is. Oh, this will stop your screen share. Yeah, that's fine for a moment. And I want to go ahead here. And these are my Final Cut rules. And the biggest one, Cirina, is that if these sort of workflows, because I'm going to need your media, I need you to have your media stay external. And I've put in here on that import, I want you to leave files in place. For those of you who aren't working with the other NLEs, it's really crucial that you're regimented, really, really regimented on how you collect and handle your media. Final Cut's one of its beautiful things is it just goes, oh, you're using these clips. I'm going to copy them into the library for you automatically. When you're working with somebody else, they're, especially if they're on Avid and Premiere, they're going to expect you to give them all the media in a single sort of folder structure. And you want to leave those in place for Final Cut. You should be aware that stills are a little funky into Avid. They're fine into Premiere. If you want to do dual sound, that's fine. You can do your sync. Titles and generators aren't going to come across, but basic audio work, keyframing audio will come across. Your XML coming to me. I don't care whether you've used Builder or not. I love Philip and Greg. I love the guys at Lumberjack Systems. I think that it's a phenomenal tool. It was a great demo of it, by the way. And I love the fact that you're using it for this is it Chianti? Is I got that right?
Chianti, yeah. I honestly, I can't do a script anymore without using it. It's just, my life is too complicated.
Well,
So,
you know,
that's how I write.
I've cut so many years directly in the timeline, but that sort of parallel storytelling and doc-based work is the most powerful. It's not just somebody really when their sound bites interleave is when it gets really powerful. The fact that you used it is irrelevant to me. What I need is
Sure.
I need your media.
Yep.
And I need an XML, and that XML's got to be 1.9 or earlier. The brand new 1.10, do not use. Now that will get me, if I have all your media, if I have that, I'll get your timeline. But I might want your bins. If you gone and you've only cut 2 pieces of B-roll or 10 pieces of B-roll, but you've got like an hour's worth of B-roll, the one thing I'm going to ask you to do or anybody to do is I'm going to want an XML file of all of your B-roll. So you'll just
Absolutely.
build separate Final Cut projects.
Right.
Give me all of that. Go
Right.
ahead and which one are you going to play? I'm going to stop this screen because I've got some rules for Premiere and some rules
The
for
next one is Final Cut to Premiere via X to CC. I just want to also remind everybody that we were building something for immediate delivery that was a short version of the ultimate story. In other words, this is like a quick reaction when you're in the Amazon or you're in a tent somewhere and you've got to build something to send to the studio because they need it right away.
It's more than that. You know, it's really common. It's a common workflow that you're there, you're the initial producer in the field, you've cut something together, you're passing it off to me for the storytelling.
Right.
But you were there at the interview. You can do that construction, and now you're passing it to me because you're flying somewhere else to do the next piece, the next part of it. And I'm starting to massage it together. And that workflow can continue to happen. You give me new pieces, you give me a new XML of your new interviews. So it's this really beautiful partnership between a preditor who's out in the field and me who wants to see his kids at night as an editor remotely. And you're just passing this off with Hightail or something else sort of as the in-between.
Right.
So I think the resolve workflow is harder, but the Premiere, go ahead and play that X to CC because I did it. It's less than a minute. It's just a nice extra review. And if you want, I can play it because I have it here too.
I thought I started it. Okay.
I stopped screen sharing. I stopped my screen sharing to let you screen share. So you have to screen share again. No, because you're not screen sharing again yet. I'll tell you what, I made it. So why don't I do it?
Okay.
If that makes your life easier.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just I'd like to figure out how to start sharing again.
You just go to the screen sharing at the bottom, right under your face and say share screen.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and I'll figure that out.
Okay, absolutely. So I just am loading up. It's supposed to open up QuickTime. Come on, where's my QuickTime? I can do it without it, but okay. Yeah, there it goes. So I'm going to go to the bottom of the screen. I'm going to hit share screen. I'm waiting. There it is. And I'm going to say QuickTime Player. So this is just me getting stuff out of taking the XML through X2CC. And it's the same thing we saw. This one's a little bit more complex. Now I happen to have here all the media.
I can play from here if you want. So everybody, put your questions in there and we'll answer your questions. I think we're going to have some time to do that.
Yeah,
We've just
that's, by the
got,
way, that was step one. And then I want to show you the more complex one in Premiere. And it's not super complex, but it was definitely more complex than just a single clip. And again, I had all the media. And then we'll go do the same thing because it's a little bit trickier with Avid, only because of really two features. One is how to get an AAF, and the other is because I love the fact that you had an EDL. I'm not an EDL fan if I can avoid it. And so the big thing is you want to work out a project like this so you can share this early with an editor so they're not afraid of your work. I want to make sure, I think I may have blown
Jeff,
it. on
why
the
don't you
first-
go ahead and just run through the 4 videos that you have?
Sure.
You can go ahead and
Okay.
do that, and I'll advance in my presentation and just pick it up after you're done with that.
That's perfect. So
I have
let
a
me
little
go ahead.
trick from Brad Olson also that I'm going to show before we go.
I'd love to see it. So here
Okay.
is opening it up in Premiere. Cirina has sent me the media and the XML file, and I'm just going to go ahead here and jump into Premiere and create a new project. I'm going to tell this project to be in that folder. That's just for clean work. And this is the editor handoff. There's Premiere. Premiere comes up. I'm going to go ahead and import the XML file. It's automatically relinked, but if it didn't, I would just have to relink to this media, and then I'll check the cut. Ready to go for editorial. And I want to really point out there that the audio keyframing you'd done and the levels came across really beautifully here because of X to CC, and that would not have come across in an EDL.
I see Philip is in the chat. Hi, Philip. Hi, Greg. If you're both watching, thank you for all this.
I then wanted to do, you said, how would I take it to Avid? And Avid's just a hair trickier. And that's just because it's an AAF. Now, I thought it'd be really fun, Cirina, because, especially if you're working in National Geo and you're dealing with the East Coast out of DC, they're much more Windows based. And so what I did was I put this together on Windows rather than on Macintosh. So I think this is the only time during the summit we'll see any Windows interfaces.
I love it.
So I'm going to share screen again. And so we've got 2 pieces here. One is we got to get it through Resolve to get the AAF. And let's take a look at how that works. This is how to use Resolve to translate an FCP XML to an Avid AAF. So I'm going to create a new project here in Resolve. I'm on Windows, and I'm going to call this Chiante Translation Project. And once in Resolve, I've got to get to the edit page. Under the File menu, I have to go to Import and choose Timeline. That's how you're going to bring a timeline across from Final Cut. There is the Final Cut XML right here, because Resolve reads that. And you can leave everything alone. You can tell it to not import the sources if you don't have them. Don't worry about the things that fail. Right-click on the timeline itself and choose Export. And when you export this out as an AAF for Avid, it'll give you a warning saying you haven't generated this a new one. That's fine. And you're done with Resolve. So we just use it as a translator. And now we're going to go over to Media Composer. And if you've never seen the Media Composer interface, it's not the prettiest thing. And you should know those menus are a little large just because I dumbed down a 4K screen. I apologize for some of the fonts being large. I've taken my 4K screen and taken it down to 1080. And I'm doing this on Windows. So we're going to create a new project. The project needs to match our Final Cut project size. It's the same format. We'll call this Chianti project. I'm going to say create. Avid automatically creates a bin. And I'm going to call this initial AF. On my Windows system, I'm going to take our AAF and just drag it right into the Avid. And you could also do a file menu import. I'm going to save that. I'm going to create a new bin. I'm going to call that bin Reconnect. I'm going to take the sequence. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to put it in the Reconnect bin, and I'm going to close the initial AAF. So there's the timeline, and it's red, showing everything's offline, and what we need to do is relink. But for Avid, we need to give it the media. So I'm going to take all the media. When I drag it in, I'm going to do one thing that you might not know, which is hold down the Alt key. When I hold down the Alt key, what this does is this brings in the media, and it links to it rather than doing an Avid media file copy. And there's all the media. It's still not connected yet. So for that, we need to relink. Right-click, relink. We want to relink from the media drive, and boy, that's a dialog box. This will default to source name being source or file ID. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make this just the name of the clip. Ignore the extension, any video format, highest quality. That's kind of the secret sauce. And when we say OK, everything relinks, and now our editor can work. And just so you can see, Cirina, I want to just show you those as slides, just so you have those as well.
Okay.
I'm hoping you heard sound with that, right?
I couldn't hear what you
Oh,
I
suck.
I could hear your video, but I couldn't see it. Sorry. I'm going to share my screen again.
Okay, go ahead.
And we're going to start the presentation. And go ahead, and what were you saying?
I was just going to quickly mention just Resolve as a translator. I have slides for you if you don't have them, just to recap that stuff. And then I'll be quiet because it's your session.
Well, no, it's our session. You have been absolutely amazing. Everybody, I'm so grateful to all of the editors who jumped in here, because I wanted to talk to producers. And I know you guys are brilliant when it comes to editing, but please don't forget that you've got your producer backing you up in the field, and they're going to help you to deliver these quick things to the studio. And of course, they're going to send you the whole story too. Anyway, this is Brad Olson. You know him from his film Off the Tracks about Final Cut. And Brad had a little cheat that he wanted to share with you guys. So I'm going to show that to you now. Jeff, remember, this is just to send the editor an emergency clip or some emergency media so that they can deliver something very quickly while you're getting all the footage to them for the Final Cut. Okay.
Here's a scenario you might find yourself in. You're in the field and the network wants to do a promo. With the footage in hand, you know what interview and B-roll clips would make a great promo. But you don't have time to send a drive to your editor or upload all the original media. You just want to send the selected clips. Luckily, Final Cut makes that easy. All the selected interview and B-roll clips have been added onto a timeline. In the browser, we are going to do a search for used media and save a new smart collection. You know, just in case we have to do this over again. Select all the clips and batch export them directly from the browser. These exported clips can be uploaded to Frame.io or shared on whatever cloud platform you prefer.
Well, thank you to Brad for that. That was awesome. Now, I just want to recap very quickly because I think we're running out of time. We built sequences in Final Cut. We exported from Final Cut out to Builder to create my script. Then we went back to Final Cut so we could export the XML. We cheated. We did some clips with handles for an emergency with the editor. We did a quick translation using the EDLX app. We proved that the editors were happy with what we were doing in the field. Kristen talked about Final Cut to Premiere via X2CC, and so did Jeff. Jeff is my hero. He talked about Premiere, Resolve, and Avid, and Brad Olson did a really quick, simple use clip export. I just really want to say that was fun, and I hope that I've given all the producers listening and the editors also to support them that yes, they can speak your NLE language, hire them. So to you producers, tell the EP when they tell you, no, we're not working in Final Cut. You can say, I love Final Cut. I promise I'll do a really good job. And yes, I can communicate with your editor. So I just want to say thank you and happy filming to everyone. And a special thanks to OWC and to FMC and to Apple and all of our sponsors for these sessions. This is a trip down memory lane when OWC had my stuff up in their booth at NAV, and they've been very, very kind to me for a long time. These are some of my sponsors and media partners on my films: OWC, Lumberjack, Zeiss, Black Magic, Drive Savers, and International Supplies. And this is how you can reach me. Please make a note of this. Feel free to contact me. And I noticed there's a question here on people wanting a little bit more about copying from one builder file to another. And we'll actually put that up on Lumberjack System on Facebook for you. Okay. And thank you. Hope you enjoyed this. Jeff, thanks for joining me. You are awesome as always. And please rate the session. And the feedback would be really helpful. You guys have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again soon.
Really, it was a lot of fun to do with you. I'll tell you that the one big advice I have as that editor mindset for my producers is just have a prep sheet. The same way color would give you a prep sheet for what you should be doing in your production. You want to say, have a small project already with an XML file ready to go. So an editor, you can say, hey, do me a favor. You can tell me it's not going to work, or you can just download the zip file, unzip it. There's an XML in there. See that it relinks. Once you see that it works, you have a little bit of confidence in that process. Because that's always, anytime there's something different, that's the panic. And you, if you're extra prepared as a producer, you know, they'll have extra trust with you. And that's the most important part in that relationship always, is that trust.
Always. And I can show them the videos you did now and say, hey.
Well, you can also,
it works.
You can also call me up and I'm happy to walk them through it once so they understand. Because it's Final Cut and particularly Builder, such great workflows that it's hard to recreate in other tools. And if it's where you're most comfortable, that's what's important as a producer. Is I want your storytelling and your on-set strength and premise for me as an editor to work and churn out the best story collaboratively between the best of us, both of us.
Awesome. So